Joe, could I just ask you, you've worked on the China Welcome programme for Visit Britain for how many years now?
So it's just over 4 years old now, the Great China Welcome programme.
Okay, fantastic.
So just a bit of background. For those of you who don't know, Great China Welcome was a programme that Visit Britain introduced in 2014, specifically to help signpost businesses in Britain that were suitable for the Chinese market. And it was based on the fact that some research that we had in the market that said that Chinese people generally didn't find Britain very welcoming. So what we wanted to do was kind of point them to make it easy for them to find places which would be particularly welcoming for Chinese visitors. And really it was a way of helping travel agents, bearing in mind that 4 or 5 years ago when we first started working this market, the majority of visitors were routing through the travel agents. So it was a way of saying to the travel agents, these are hotels where your clients can have a Chinese breakfast. These are attractions where they can have a Mandarin or a Cantonese language tour. These are attractions where you can, your customers will be able to use Union Pay to buy their goods. 4 or 5 years on, things have changed enormously. You've already heard from all our colleagues about the fantastic growth of the FIT market. We've heard about the massive growth in the switch from travel trade to FIT and online booking, and also in mobile payments as well. So whereas probably 4 or 5 years ago it was Union Pay or nothing, and actually that was a big investment for people because you had to physically have a special terminal, and all that required special hard wiring and a big investment for a business. Now, as we've heard from our colleagues, you can do it all just simply with a QR code. So, when we've now got about 500 members in the Great China Welcome programme, and what we're doing is kind of positioning it more as a club that will help those members actually reach the Chinese market, working with partners like London and Partners and other agencies. Some common mistakes, I think, which is really kind of, when businesses come. First of all, there's a real difference between translation and localization. So the first thing we ask is, have you actually got information for visitors, whether it's online or physically or what have you, that's actually in Chinese language? And lots of people say yes, and then we actually look at the quality of that information, and it is gobbledygook. And anybody who's tried taking a page of simplified Chinese and turning it the other way around, just go onto any Chinese website and hit Google Translate, and you will see it's not exactly meaningless, but it's not good English, and it's exactly the same in reverse. So don't rely on that. But it's not just about translation, it's about localizing it. Yep. So remembering that to put your product, your business, in the context of what a Chinese person will know and understand. Tell them how far it is from London or from Manchester, the big hubs. Tell them about the links with things that Chinese people know. Don't expect that they will know things. Other things, I'm always amazed by how few British people actually have a QR reader app on their phone. I bet if we did a sort of a hands up now, we'd probably get a few. But if you want to really connect with Chinese people, it's essential to be able to have that QR code.
Just have a WeChat.
Yes, and have WeChat. But also don't think that you can just open up a WeChat account and let it run and then turn around a year later and say, well, nobody came, because it's like any type of social media. Unless you kind of put stuff out there and give messages to share, it's not going to happen. Don't believe the hype, the fact that I've lost count, really, of the amount of conversations I've had over the years with Chinese people who promise you the earth and deliver nothing. And this is absolutely no insult intended, but remembering the importance of the Chinese culture of face. When you're talking in a meeting with Chinese, and they say, yes, of course we can do this for you, and of course we'll bring you 40 visitors next month and what have you, they might not necessarily deliver that, and be prepared for that. And then simple things. Just think about how would if you've got photography, show it with Chinese people in it. Don't show it with white people in it. And ultimately, it's about being flexible, being prepared for short term, and all those sort of things that colleagues have talked about.
Fantastic.
I'm actually from Northern England. I graduated from Newcastle. Yes.
Oh, okay.
And so,
Lots of northern
so
people
that's
here.
why, since last year, me and my friends, we've been doing a video project. It's a non-profit video project, but because we love the culture and the story here. So this year, one of our stop will be around the Peak District, because we find, we realized actually more and more people are talking about Peak District, but not that much, story to share. So that's why one of our story, we would have our own strategy. Like this year, we were starting from like the Chatsworth, because not everybody knows Chatsworth, but almost everybody in China knows Mr. Darcy. So we were starting from that story, and to tell and introduce this great area. So just giving you an example. So.
刚刚补充一下，刚刚我们进来的时候，其实有碰见，有跟那个李总有聊，因为李总他是亲生的，他是之前在这边留学，然后后来再回来带家人过来旅游的，然后他们的诉求会更偏向于相对偏远一些地方的。
So I will summarize it very briefly. So firstly, Mr. Zhou is very agreed to what Mimi has said. And to add some extra point is that you can not only focus on the first-time travelers, but also the repeated travelers who has already very familiar with the hidden parts of Britain. And as Mingbo has mentioned in his presentation previously, they can do precision marketing. Through the analysis of the users, you can find the travelers who fit the criteria of your prospective consumers, and then do the precision marketing to promote your products to them precisely.
I think one of the ways that you can really help your business to stand out is Chinese people like to feel that they're getting something kind of special over and above what perhaps other visitors are getting. And I think it's sort of human nature to feel that you're getting an exclusive experience that you can then share across all your social networks and what have you. So if you can develop special packages or special, it may be, that your Chinese visitors get a special afternoon tea and, perhaps some sort of like immersive experience when they come. That will give them something to do. And the other thing is, don't forget the fun. I think the Chinese, one of the reasons why I've loved working in the Chinese market is, unlike some of our markets which take themselves really seriously, Chinese people are, they want to have fun, and they don't mind kind of not, looking silly if it also looks kind of, if it looks as though they're having a good time. And a classic example was a stately home outside London. It's not a very well-known stately home that I took a group of Chinese to about a year ago, and we were thinking, how can we do that? There are loads of stately homes. What's going to make this one stand out? And we had, when they arrived, we had a sort of a dressed-up butler and housemaid, what have you, actually welcoming there. They were just local actors, but they really gave them a very warm experience. We allowed the Chinese and group to go into the scullery where they could put on their own outfits, and they could choose to be above stairs or downstairs, so depending on which one they wanted. And we were giving them a guided tour of the house, and we then suddenly said, oh, wait a minute, everybody, there's a crisis. The ducks have escaped. And you know how you go to these country shows and they have like duck herding? And we got a local company to come along, and they let a flock of ducks loose on the lawn. And we had all the Chinese we said, quick, everybody must go out and herd them up. And honestly, it was fantastic. Now, that was a group of tour operators. By the end of that afternoon, they had booked 4 tours at 30 people each. This price of those tours, we said, we'll do this experience for your businesses, for your customers. We were pricing that at £120 per person. The average price of going into that historic house as a normal visitor was £12.50. So by just adding a little bit of extra, we increased the spend, the take tenfold, but also gave people a really clever experience.
Can I ask if you include a translator in there as well? Did they speak Mandarin?
Yes, we had it. Yes, yeah, they had a translator with them. Yes.
Well, I think there's one thing. It's a very good question. Actually, we have been discussing during the fan trip as well. We noticed that when we try to target younger generation, actually, lots of them, they can maybe not as fluent as native speaker, but some of them they can understand pretty much English. By just giving an example, the other day, we had. On the way to the dinner place, there were like only 5 minutes. Tim from Visit Manchester, because we asked him, and I think he played the trick. He asked, "Have you noticed there is an animal symbol? You can see it everywhere in Manchester." When we were like doing animal hunting, and he said that's the bee. And I noticed that there are lots of bee icons in the Manchester, and he presented in a very humorous and a very British way to tell us where is the story from, and actually everybody put the pin on. He speaks English, and I didn't translate, but everyone got what he said. So I would say for most of the British suppliers, you having completely China-ready stuff might be a little bit difficult for you, but maybe few greeting or few general introduction in Chinese that can be very helpful. Even you don't have it, but if the person have the real passion about this place, I think that would also add value to your product as well.
Actually, I can answer this question. So, because Qna is a platform, there are so many products and so many buyers put the products on their platform for sale. And actually, we are grant handling company, so that's why we can pay all the supplier. Yeah. So the customer book through the platform in Qna, and actually the money will goes to our account. And then we make payment to the supplier.
Yeah, so I also mentioned a little bit, like for big brands such as Hilton, they definitely have a huge team in China, right? Their sales team directly deal with the partnership with like Qna or Ctrip, but some of the small brands, because it takes time, and also you need have a certain like a certificate or qualification. Then we will be able to like kind of open a store. By giving an example, like a Qna is like have a Westfield, and if you want to be one of the store and you need to meet the certain criteria, from my understanding, most of the British brands don't have the people to deal with and don't meet the criteria to launch the store online, and that's why we have like a ground handler, or they are qualified to open the store online, and they will kind of acting as your customer service exclusively for looking after your Chinese clients and on Qna. So yeah.
So basically, this is another advantage is the communication.
Yep.
So we understand what's the customer they want and what they need, and we know what supply can do. So platform is only supply a criteria and the place to let us make the deal, and make the business happen. And so in this case, actually, you mentioned the risk. So for the supplier, I don't think there is any risk.
Yep.
Because all our products is all sell in front, so they need to pay first, then we'll get confirmation.
Well, I suppose from a Visit Britain point of view, because Visit Britain obviously deals with markets across the world, not just China. So China is the fastest growing. It's definitely the fastest when it comes to mobile payments, and when it comes to kind of that whole sort of shareable like transaction, more so than any others. I think when you come to, it's certainly also the fastest developing, but I think when it comes to this kind of type of immersive experience, I think that is global. I think that just reflects generally sort of all travellers across the world are becoming more picky, more discerning. They're wanting things that not to show that they're doing things that not everybody else is doing.
Yeah, and also I remember my friends said, and he may visit like at least twice or 3 times per year to travel the overseas. Of course, for every single destination, he would visit like a regular sightseeing, the very popular attractions. But it's very interesting. One thing impressed her a lot, normally in the end, is it might not be like a picture on the Westminster Bridge with the big man, but usually would be possibly that could be someone, a local people said hello to him, to her, and shared a story with her. So that experience highlighted her travel all the time. So for my understanding, because nowadays I think every single transaction wanted to be that highlighted moment of people's journey. So that's why we see more and more customized and immersive and a very unique and exclusive experience, and have been produced and developed for not just the Chinese tourists and also the tourists across the world.
I mean, Mr. Lee, do you think that the technology is driving this change? Because we now can be individual.
Well, actually, I want to also say something regarding the local attractions regarding in China we call it cost upgrade or 消费升级. I don't know how to say it in English. It should be cost upgrade.
It's a very trendy word in China. We talk about a lot. Recently, we call it the upgraded consuming lifestyle.
Yeah, it's like lifestyle like us, like my generation. We have like Western education. We are 35. We get family. We want to have something special. We don't mind to spend more money to experience some real British life. So something is different. We can't find it from China, even we are rich. So no matter how much money you spend, you can't get it from China. That's something you can only get from the Britain countryside, which we call it civilization. So anything related to civilization, you can identify your product and see, because for your hotel or your attraction, you can't have all the Chinese visitors there, because if you have like big group of the tourism, it will destroy your image. The middle class Chinese will never go back again. Like for my generation, my parents, when they travel here in UK, they will never go to like Big Ben or London Eyes. They only want me to take them to something like Curve Castle, which they can't actually find other Chinese there. They will feel very happy. So, and they don't mind to spend more money to experience the sunshine day there, even they pay more, because we can't find many sunshine days in Curve Castle every year. So my parents will understand, yes, that's why we pay more, because the time is special. So I think more important thing is identify your product and identify your customer. If you want make money by the revenue or the volume, then you should work with tourism. But if you identify your product, identify new middle class of Chinese, then it will totally different marketing strategy for your product.
Yeah, that is something we actually discussed with Scott and the gentleman from the Manchester Souvenir. And it is very important. Actually, your product will be never changed. Like visiting the lake is always there. No matter how you upgrade, it's the lake. Visiting the lake is the product. But what we can change is how you tell the story. From the marketing perspective, in the past, you may say, come to Lake, it is beautiful. But nowadays, what we have been discussed the most during the fan trip is about look at the lifestyle they have. Maybe we can move from destination focus into a lifestyle focused message, and that is very important. They may still do shopping, of course, but won't be their priority. So during their trip, I found they also spend lots of money. Trust me, they only have 1 hour. They only had a 1 hour in Suffrage in Manchester, and they spend a lot. But the rest of the journey, they don't even mention about I want to go to somewhere shopping. They just spend a very relaxing day in Lake, and they've been talking a lot about lifestyles. So that because e-commerce is so well developed around the world, they can buy anything from online. But actually visiting that place to enjoying that moment with local, to immerse themselves with local, that's the actual money come by experience for them. So, and that is also another experience from my another client is from a very small Scottish local travel company, and they asked us to do a social listening report for them, and they only provide English service, but surprisingly we found across all the social media platforms they have got 100% positive feedback, but everyone were talking about the top 3 facts. All the Chinese customers have been shared across the Weibo and WeChat is, first of all, we have noticed their tour guide would pick up the trash after every single tour we had in the local village. That's very impressive, and we respect that. And secondly, all the dressed up as a proper Scottish, and we feel like we spent a wonderful time being a real Scottish. And thirdly, and in the other way round, they don't want to be separated with the other 12 Chinese guests and with the Chinese tour guide. Actually, they maybe understand 30 or 40%, but they still enjoy the experience. So I would say maybe we are here to help you to improve or change your brand presentation or product. But one thing important is keep your origins, keep your original flavor of being a British experience.
Yeah.
Thank you, that's really insightful.
Basically, for all the Chinese payment service, it's all the same. So everything is the same. It's very easy to combine to your current till or your current scan, hardware, and we are just API, so it can be combined to anything, and it's very easy to use. And also, I'm not sure if you already benefit from the Alipay and WeChat Pay marketing activities to actually refund the consumers. So if you based on some policies, we can't just for every merchant to provide all the payment service in one time to benefit all the activity refund, because actually refund from either Alipay or WeChat Pay. So, but it always can be discussed to benefit the merchant if you sign contract with us. So that's. We have API online,
Right.
which can be connect to your API, your website,
Right.
which every time after you combine them for the customer, when they click the stuff, and they will list like Alipay, WeChat Pay, Jingdong Pay, or Suning Pay. Right. And for the Chinese, they can easily scan they can choose like either it's Alipay or Fusion Pay, or Alipay or WeChat Pay, and scan the QR code. Then you got the payment, and we'll provide you a management system for you to see. Okay, the payment already in. So.
Thank you.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah.
Sure, can think about
Scotland.
Scotland,
Scotland,
no!
Not Scotland here.
Oh no, not Scotland. That's I want to say. Sorry, it was
Studland.
Studland. Not
Studland.
in yeah
Studland Beach.
Studland Beach. Do you know
Yes.
that? Old Harry Rocks.
Yes.
Cove Castle?
Yeah, down in
Yeah,
Devon.
yeah, that's my
Dorset
favorite
even,
place.
sorry.
Yeah, Dorset, yeah. It's my favorite place.
Yeah, very
Yeah.
good, very good. Mei Mei.
It is a very difficult question. It is a very difficult question
diplomatic.
for me. Yeah. So, well, Newcastle is the place where I started my journey in England, and I lived in like 6 years in London. And the reason why I started to do the video project because there's so many. I would say like Britain is a great book, but it's a shame I've seen so many people just read the cover and left. So that's why I like to present that book well. So it is very difficult for me to pick out one place. So at the moment I leave London. If you ask me, have to make a choice. So London,
Yeah.
Where? London where?
London.
Which area? Because London is so big.
Okay, well, you can argue that one out afterwards. Mr. Fang, where would you go?
Actually, I have been many places in the UK, and I can say they are quite different between each city and area.
Yeah.
But personally, the most favorite place is Cotswolds.
Yeah.
Yeah, I have been there for so many times, and I take my family over there and my friends over there just for a day trip or 2 days trips. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. Go on then, Joe. You're allowed. Joe Leslie, you are allowed to say.
Well, I'm biased, but I'm a Yorkshire girl, so
Oh,
yeah.
oh, okay.
Yeah, so there we
Okay.
go.
And Mr. Joe,
Okay,
is it your
yeah,
first
he just told me.
time?
So the answer for Mr. Joe is very simple. Definitely London, because that's the only place that he has been to.
Oh, well, you must come back, and I'm sure there's an awful lot of people here who would like to see you in their home city as well. So thank you very much for sharing, Joe.
Am I allowed to just say one extra
Yes,
point? Is that
of
all
course.
right?
Yes, you
Sorry.
are.
I
Yes.
just wanted to just leave, because we had lots of statistics, but I just wanted to leave you with two, which I think are really important. One is that currently only less than 4% of Chinese people have a passport. So we've already seen this massive growth. Now, President Xi Jinping has said that by 2025, he wants 25% of Chinese people to have a passport. At the moment, only 10% of Chinese who are travelling are coming into Europe. So you can see the massive growth of this market. But the other thing I wanted to just say, and it's been touched on a bit, but I think you should really look more into this, is that there are about 300,000 Chinese who are studying here. 100,000 in boarding schools under 18 and about another 200,000 at universities. And if it seems too daunting to actually go out and reach out into mainland China, then it's very easy with working with these guys to actually reach those. And if you reach those, you've really cracked the job.
Thanks, Joe. That's a really, really, really good point.
It's normally through these guys. Yeah, so there's a classic figure that they always say, like this 6+1. So bearing in mind, so most Chinese that are travelling are one child, so they'll come with their parents. So you'll get 2 parents and 4 grandchildren coming. You'll often see that kind of grouping going around, and they will be booking through. They may book through their local travel agent, who will then in turn come to a ground handler like Titicaca. That's absolute classic. Or the child will book direct on using one of the OTAs here in China.
Yeah, and sometimes there can be a mix, like my parents visit me like once a year. They book the flight ticket through Kuna because they can stay with me. They don't need to book the accommodation. And I normally would book the accommodation because I speak English, so I just directly go to like visit Manchester, or I tend to go to the official one to find the accommodation. But because I'm so busy, I don't have time to spend like 5 or 6 days to be with them to like North England part and Scotland part. And I would go for Miss Titicaca's the packaged, small packaged tour for them, because you can choose like it's 100 or 200 or 300 pounds. So it's a quite mix. So that's why I said there's no certain way to clarify a specific customer journey for Chinese clients, because it's quite mixed and sometimes unpredictable. But it's either this or that.